All right, good morning, IFE, and welcome to Las Vegas. I hope everybody enjoyed the party last night and you're ready for an exciting show. My name is Beau Groover. I'm not used to having a lectern, so I'm going to pace and hopefully not fall off the stage, but if I do, y'all just help me up. I work with supply chain companies on operational excellence and leadership development, and I want to talk with you about four steps for exceptional execution. So my wife and I came in on Friday to get a little Vegas in before the show started, and you've got to have a Vegas story, right? So we were coming back Saturday, and it was too early to go to bed, but too late to go out. And I'm like, honey, let's just have a nightcap. So we found this little dive bar, and we walked in, and there's people drinking, and you hear this piano playing just very faintly. And so we walked up to the bar, and on the bar was a little tiny piano player about this tall. And he was playing a little tiny piano on top of the bar. So I'm kind of taken aback. The bartender says, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'd like a bourbon and a red wine for my wife. Any bourbon drinkers out there? Couple? One? You're too tired? You're too hungover to hold the hand all the way up? It's like, yeah, kind of. So he gets our drinks, and I'm still just fixated on this tiny little piano player. I'm amazed by it. And I said, man, I got to ask you, I'm talking to the bartender, where did you get this little tiny piano player? He said, I've got a magic genie in the back of the bar. I'm like, come on. But it is Las Vegas, right? So I was like, all right, can I see it? And so he said, sure, yeah, I'll go get it. And he brings it up, and he sets it on the bar in front of me, and I'm staring at it. And Jennifer's staring at it with me, and I'm like, this is wild, man. How's it work? And he said, well, you rub it, and the genie pops out and grants your wish. I said, okay, still not believing. And I said, well, can I try it? And he said, yes, but you've got to be very specific on what you ask the genie, because he's a little bit wonky. So I'm excited. I rub the lamp, poof, out pops this giant genie. He looks down and says, I am your genie. I grant you one wish. And I was so excited, I said, I want $1 million. And poof, there were deer everywhere. Top of the bar, behind the bar, out here on the table. And I'm looking at the bartender. I said, dude, what the heck? He said, my man, did you really think I asked for a 12-inch pianist? Okay, so thank you guys for getting up early, coming out here to hear me yammer on. Hopefully it's going to be fun and entertaining, and also some good things for you to take away. I know that there's a lot more to the fastener world than what's on the screen. I asked ChatGPT about a dozen times to create a wide assortment, and this is the best it could do. Before we get started, if you guys are like most industries, you kind of lose sight of how important you are, right? Everything that is in our world is held together with some type of fastener. This stage, and I'm confident it's not going to fall down. All of the booths, the buildings, the casinos, everything is held together by you. Anybody know about how many people work in the fastener industry around the world? Anybody brave enough to take a guess? 10 million. Not quite. So according to Chat, and Chat data is probably as good as Chat data, 600,000 to 700,000 people work in the fastener industry. So on top of holding society together and keeping our world moving, there's 600,000 to 700,000 families depending on you guys to lead your industry forward. I think that's worth of a round of applause for yourselves. Thank you. So I'm going to share with you four straightforward components of exceptional execution. If you've ever heard the joke, the guy was talking to a frustrated executive, and he said, how do you feel about the execution of your team? He said, I'm all for it, right? So knowing what to do is great. Knowing what 2 to 3 things will really have the biggest impact is awesome. Having a group of talented individuals is terrific. Leading them to execute the right 2 to 3 things as a team is unstoppable. Having exciting ideas is great. Knowing how to get shit done separates the winners from the losers. And having a few rock star leaders is helpful. Developing a deep bench strength of leaders that can step up and lead will enable you to dominate your competition, right? So I'm going to share with you a few things that we've heard over the last 20 years from companies that we're working with. Again, these are supply chain companies. They're trying to improve. They're trying to build their team. They're trying to improve, increase their execution. And see if any of these sound familiar. You don't have to raise your hand, or you don't have to no elbowing your neighbor, right? I have no idea what our plan is as a company. We try to be all things to all customers, and I don't know what that means for our future. Management finds pet projects and new initiatives all the time, and they never stick. Now when we hear stuff, we just roll our eyes and wait for the next flavor of the month. We never take the time to really fix our problems. We slap Band-Aids on things, we get product out the door, but then we see the same problems over and over again. We hire people because we're desperate, then we throw them into the fire without much training, then they quit, and then we start the vicious cycle all over again. I bust my hump to meet and beat production goals, but I've got coworkers who do as little as possible, and it's just not fair. Any of these sounding familiar? My boss never talks to me unless he thinks I've done something wrong. Yeah? So, how we got here. And if you look at that top marketing picture, that's what a marketing company thought I needed. They call that the smolder gaze. This is how I feel when I'm working with my customers. Oops. And this is what God gave me to work with. So how we got here. I am an operations guy. I grew up in manufacturing, passionate about operational excellence, Lean Six Sigma. And about 15 years ago, I started collaborating with an organizational psychologist named Doc. His real name is Dr. Michael McIntyre, but everybody just calls him Doc. So my push at what we were doing was, hey, if you get people working in great processes, they'll figure out how to work as a team. And Doc's like, yeah, that's kind of true, but not completely true. His take was, if you teach people how to work together, they'll figure out great processes. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true, but not totally true. So after a lot of collaboration and arguing and fighting and cussing and fussing, we've agreed that you've got to have both. And so there's a lot of companies really, really focused on their operational excellence. They're doing Lean Six Sigma, they're doing standard work documentation, they're looking for the next automation. It's all good stuff. There's also I think, smaller number of companies that are really focused on building their culture and hoping that that culture will enable them to develop their world's greatest processes. Right? Our belief is that you need to work on both of them with the same amount of intention if you truly want to be the best of the best. If you truly want to be great, you need to have engaged, encouraged, empowered employees who are excited about what you're doing. They're bought into the vision of the company, and you've got to have really good processes for them to work on. Either one without the other will get you better. But if you truly, again, want to take that step to become the best of the best, you've got to have both. So, our prescription, 4 questions that will help you win regardless of the situation that you're working on. Okay. What are we trying to do? Are we aligned and coordinated? Are our systems tight? And is the team fired up? Sounds easy enough, right? So, number 1, clarity. Number 2, teamwork. I can't see if I'm clicking or not. I don't have trust in my clicker, so I apologize. Number 3, operational discipline. And number 4, leadership energy. As we go through this, what I would ask you to think about is how many of these do you have in your organization, and do you really have them, or do you have bits and pieces of them, right? Do you have some of them in place? This little graphic is our get shit done system, right? And this is an iterative process, meaning you don't do this once and high five and like, all right, we've got it all done, because every time you go through the iteration, you get a little more clear. You get a little bit better at teamwork, you get a little bit better at discipline, and hopefully you're fostering energy into the organization. So when we're talking about clarity, what do we mean? Okay. What are we trying to do? Why does it matter? What does success look like, and how will we define it? Okay? I'm not smart enough to remember a 30-minute story, so I'm going to tell you 4 or 5 short stories. Okay? I was working as an interim distribution center manager right after COVID. Big warehouse. Okay? It's a brand name that you guys would know. They were about 3 weeks behind on their order process. Okay, so their customers were waiting longer and longer lead times. You guys lived through the pandemic, right? It was fun. Supply chain was awesome. Everything worked out smoothly. I had a lot of hair back then. I had like long flowing locks before COVID. So when I got there, I was asking the person that brought me in to be the interim DC manager, and I said, hey, what are we trying to do? There's a lot of ways you guys are looking at orders. There's orders by date, there's orders by dollars, and there's order by customers. You guys have any customers that you behave differently for? You do. You don't have to admit it. I know you do. So I asked him the question. He said, well, they're all number one. And if everything's a priority, then nothing is a priority. So this is a 24/7 shift. This distribution center ran around the clock. It never stopped. And what I heard and I started digging into was there was no clarity for what each shift was focused on, right? And without that kind of alignment, first shift might have been working on dates, second shift might have been working on the important customers, third shift might have been trying to chase dollars, and so there was no progress being made. Literally, the only change that I made was, guys, we're gonna chase dates. I then took the organization and said, all right, I need the steady Eddie people, not the great problem solvers, but the guys and girls who show up on time, they do the right thing, they work. You guys are doing today's work because we can't keep falling behind. I then built little sub-teams of really good problem solvers, the go-getters, the folks who knew how to dig into the system and figure out where stuff was stuck. In 3 weeks, we were caught up pulling ahead. And I'm not telling you this story to say, wow, I'm some magician, but that's the power of clarity, because the only thing that we changed was we gave the organization a clear path forward for what we're doing, why it matters, how it impacts them, how do we measure it, all of those things. And literally within 3 weeks, we were caught up and pulling ahead, okay? So a little gut check for you. When you go back to your organization, ask 10 people in 10 different departments, what are we trying to do? See if you get the same answer 10 times, or if you get 10 kind of close answers, or you get 10 randomly different answers. Because as a team member, I get really, really concerned about what I'm doing, right? I get really, really concerned about my department, my little piece of the pie, how I fit in, and if there's not some shiny North Star up here that we're all chasing, then it's really easy for me to get lost. It's easy for me to get lost in my own cycle, and if I can't see the big picture or I don't understand the big picture, it's a never-ending cycle. You just keep trying to work harder, try to work faster, try to do more. Teamwork. Who's responsible for what? How do they interact and collaborate? What systems do we have in place to support our teams? And how do we lead, coach, and develop our team members? So if you think about number one being clarity, what are we trying to do? I think it's a pretty logical next step to say, all right, who's going to do that? Make sense? Yeah? So some of you guys are old enough to remember the 1992 Dream Team in the Olympics. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird went through the Olympics like a knife through hot butter, right? It was the first time that professional NBA players had played for the United States basketball team. 2004, you had Allen Iverson, Tim Duncan, a young LeBron James, and Carmelo Anthony. They didn't function as a team. And if anybody remembers watching it, it was all about a bunch of superstars, right? There was no team cohesion. So the teamwork was missing. That team won the bronze, okay? And out of all of the sports in the Summer Olympics, I think basketball is the one that we should always win gold in. But without cohesive teamwork, even though you have the greatest players on the planet on the court, if they're not cooperating and collaborating and working together like a unit, they're going to be okay, but they're not going to be great. They're not going to be gold medals. Okay? Number 4, operational discipline. Do we understand what we need to do and what winning means? Do we have a process that produces those results? Can it be measured and duplicated? And do we identify and fix issues, or do we treat the symptoms? Okay, so this is where I plug in, right? This is where my brain gets going on the Lean Six Sigma side. This is where processes work, right? And there's a lot of automation going on now that's exciting as well, but we still have human interactions. So we were working with a manufacturer, and they were making small metal nozzles about like this. Okay, they were about this big, huge profit margin. Got a little piece of bar stock, cut it, drilled it, right? Did the CNC machining, sold it for a stupid amount of money because it was pretty precise. It was a 3-week lead time for these stupid little nozzles that literally took about 20 minutes to make at the time. Okay, and this is 2005. We did 3 weeks of repetitive Kaizen work in that production cell. And when we were done, it was on demand. So we would make the nozzles. We didn't have inventory, because what happens when you make inventory that you hope is going to sell? You get to sell all of it, right? It's in a warehouse somewhere, and you're praying every day that you get an order for it. So yeah, this is in 2005, right? So this is pre-Amazon taking over the world. We had an on-demand sale. What do you think the salespeople for that organization did? You know, this is better if it was interactive. I ask a question, you know, you guys come back, I talk, and they went out and just obliterated the competition, right? Because of what we were able to do with the way the process worked, we took cost out, we increased all kinds of marketing capabilities, we increased all kinds of conversations for our sales guys to go have, and it was amazing what happened. And it was literally just 3 weeks of work of like really intense kind of, how should this thing work, right? What's taking 3 weeks to make a nozzle that big? It didn't take 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks to get all the crap in the system, to get clarity till we need to make the nozzle and put it on the machine, right? Okay, and then last but not least is energy. I know this is going to be news to you guys, but the supply chain is hard. Competition is hard. Effectively using technology is hard, and managing through this generational transition that we're in is hard. So if you aren't able to continually bring the energy to your organization, you're probably going to be plodding along. I sit with a lot of executives, and they say, you know, Beau, my team's just not bought in. They don't care. They just kind of show up to get a check, blah, blah, blah. And I always have to look at them and say, who's leading the team? Right? This is a mirror check. And what I want you guys thinking about is the people that you are leading are your mirror. They will always reflect what you bring to them or what you don't bring to them. So if I, as a leader, walk around like I'm pissed off, they're probably not going to bother me. They're going to try to wait and see when I'm in a good mood, right? They got a problem they need help with. Man, Beau looks like he's in a bad mood. I'm not gonna interact with that guy today. If I look like I'm too busy, right? If I don't understand anything beyond my transactional relationship with my team members, what are they going to buy into? Right? Good morning. Did you do the report? Did you have the thing? Did you finish the project? Did you talk to the customer? Did you, right? It's always take. Energy means you have to be making deposits constantly. I've heard the ratio too many times to ignore it. I don't know if it's scientific. 7 to 1. So I need to make 7 deposits for every withdrawal that I make to my employees. So what's a deposit look like? Hey man, thanks for staying late. Thanks for finishing that project. Thanks for jumping in over there where we had that problem. Thanks for being willing to be cross-trained. Thanks for jumping in with that customer situation. Those are all deposits. And it's not, we don't have to wait for the grand slam, right? We can celebrate somebody doing the right thing to take care of our customers. Then when I come back and say, hey Joe, and if your name's Joe, I'm not speaking to you, it's just the easiest name that I use, it's always Joe. If I'm being disparaging, it's Joe Schmuckatelli. But this is just Joe, right? When I come back to Joe after I've made all these deposits, and Joe knows that I care, and Joe knows that I want the best for the team, and I'm best for him and all that stuff, I say, Joe, I need your help over here. What's Joe gonna do? 9 out of 9 times, Joe's gonna go, I got you. Let's do this. Let's get this thing done, right? And the reason I'm harping a little bit on the energy piece, because in my opinion, after 20 years of doing what I'm doing, I think this is the biggest miss that most organizational leaders don't invest in. We can invest in automation and technology and the new software, and we're looking for the silver bullet, right? We're trying to hire the best talent. We're trying to do all the things. We've got nap rooms and cry rooms and free snacks and popsicle stands and all this stuff. At the end of the day, it's the human factor that your employees need. And we always say we want our people to buy in. It's up to me to give them something to buy into. And I do that by putting my energy towards them. Okay? Short story, Alexander the Great, he was fighting in India, and his troops were exhausted. They were tired. Okay? They didn't want to keep fighting. And he noticed it. So he took a ladder, put it up against the enemy fortress wall. He climbed the ladder himself. And 2 or 3 of his main lieutenant guys said, let's go. We climbed up the ladder with him. So Alexander turned around and looked, and his army was still nervous. He jumped over the wall into the army of the fort they were trying to overtake, which inspired all of his people to climb the ladder and jump into the enemy's fort. When you're thinking about your energy and what you're bringing to people, that's the energy that you need to bring. And guess what? It's hard. Day in and day out. You got a pissed off customer, your wife's yelling at you, the car didn't start, your kid's failing algebra, right? We got all the stuff. We've got all the stuff our team members do. So leadership is the privilege, and it's one that requires you muster the energy to make sure you can keep going and lead your team forward. Yeah? All right. So this is the interactive part, okay? How many of you guys have a defined plan for what you want to do at this show? Specific. Care to share? Want to talk to me? Roger that. Thank you. I didn't pay him, by the way. I'll buy you a beer later, but I did. Anybody? Plan? I want to meet some number of people. I want to make some number of connections. I want to find 2 new suppliers. I want to find a service provider, right? That's what we talk about when we talk about clarity. I love trade shows. I go to a lot of them. I have a lot of fun at them. But you're investing a lot of your life into being here and your company's money and resources for you to be here. You're not taking care of your customers right now, right? You're not calling on the next thing. You're not running the production floor. You're not doing the other things of your job because you're here, which is awesome. But if you don't, start with that clarity piece and say, all right, I've got 4 objectives for this trade show, right? I want to meet this number of leads. I want to find this many people to talk to. I want to expand my network. And one that we often miss that I would encourage you guys to think about, find 1 or 2 people to help, right? It's not the transactional, I help you, you help me, we scratch each other's back. Find somebody that comes up and asks you a question, say, you know what, I'm not invested, I'm not trying to trade you, I'm going to just try to help you, right? If we all pay it forward like that, this will be one of the best shows that has ever occurred in the great city of Las Vegas. Okay. Number 2, how many of you have a team that helped you plan your trade show, whether you're attending, exhibiting, whatever? This is the interactive part, right? I know y'all were up late, but come on, let's get those hands up. Thank you. We got 1, thank you. Okay, so what are we trying to do? We're going to the trade show. We're going to IFE 2024 in Las Vegas. What are we going to do there? That's clarity. Who's involved? Who's scheduling getting all of our equipment there? Who's handling travel? Who are we trying to meet, right? What's the intention? What's the purpose of us going there? Who's going to do what? How many of you have some kind of documented processes for how you go to a trade show? Couple? Yeah? And then lastly, how many of you read a book, watched a YouTube, watched a TikTok, something on how to make this the best trade show ever? Anybody? No? Okay. Next time, I'm expecting more out of all of you. All right, so solution number 1, Take a systemic approach to these challenges. Okay, and I'm not berating you about the trade show, but that is the kind of thing where we say, you know what? Think about, let's pretend you've got 200 people in your company. Think about all 200 people asking and answering those 4 questions on everything that's happening. Right? There is power in that simplicity. If I want to know how today's production is going to run, I've got 4 questions. What's the schedule? Who's here? Who's out sick? Do we have processes that we're going to use, and if so, are we using them? And then, hey, Mr. Supervisor, lead, production manager, whatever your title is, are you bringing the energy to get that thing done? Same 4 questions, right? So if you try to work on these things independently, you'll end up playing the old game whack-a-mole. You guys remember whack-a-mole? The fair? The mole pops up, you hit it with a rubber hammer. Okay, solution number 2, and I'm not trying to sell you guys, okay? Take this thing, use it. It'll help. Be awesome. But this is the iterative process, okay? There's a book, highly recommend, called The 12-Week Year. If you haven't read it, look it up, read it. The premise of the book is, some of you software people, if there's software people out there, the agile development methodology, right? It's 12-week sprints. I don't try to plan in December for what's going to happen for the entire year because I have no idea, right? We've got the debate tonight. I'm scared crapless about what's going to happen between now and November. And I'm even more scared about what's going to happen after November. For me to say I know what's going to happen next March, I don't have a shot. But in 12 weeks, I can run, right? I can go 12 weeks. I can go really, really hard. At the end of 12 weeks, I can stop, reset, replan. What are we going to do the next 12 weeks? Equally as important is what we're not going to do. Raise your hand if you have too many projects in your company right now. Okay, finally I got some hands. Thank you. Thank you guys for raising your hands. Appreciate that. We all do, right? I have yet to meet an organization that's not doing enough. Every one of them is trying to do too much, so we're spread peanut butter thin, we're a mile wide and an inch deep, and we're not getting anything done, and your people are exhausted. Right? Because every idea is a good idea. I don't have any qualification metrics to say, is that one better than this one? Nah, they're all good. Just figure it out, guys. Let's do some possibility thinking. Doesn't work. You're living it. It doesn't work. We know it. Okay, solution number 3, build alignment with top management. And if you are top management, build alignment with the rest of your organization. If you look at this arrow, most organizations try to work right to left. They start with the results and say, that's not working. Let's go talk to the frontline people and tell them to work harder, try more. Come on, guys, do a little better, right? That creates the operating culture. And if you're bearing down on your people constantly, probably not great. It's probably okay, but not great, right? And that leads to the leader behavior that you've got. We suggest you go the other way. You go left to right. What are the leader behaviors that you want? Does everybody in your organization know what it means to be a leader? If you ask 10 people that have some kind of leadership title, would you get the same answer 10 times? You probably get close, right? They're going to say trust, communication, teamwork, accountability. Okay. What does that mean in action? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you describe it? Are people talking about how effective your leaders are? Or are people at the water cooler going, man, Joe is such a jackass. I hate having meetings with that guy. Right? I don't know the answer to that. Only you guys do. But if you start with the leader behavior, that creates the operating environment, also known as the culture, right? Culture is one of those words you hear a lot. Just think about, here's how we do things around here. That's your culture. What do you celebrate? What do you hold accountable? What do you overlook? What do you drive forward? That's your culture. Okay? That feeds your frontline people because they understand it. And that creates the results that you're after. Yeah? All right, solution number 4, play the long game. Your current system, however old your company is how long your culture has been under development. If your company is 20 years old, you've got a 20-year roadmap of developing a culture. And if it's not deliberately developed, Our experience shows it usually devolves to a good, comfortable place of mediocrity. I don't know how it works. They're remarkably similar across every supply chain company I've worked with, manufacturing, warehousing, logistics, freight. We just get to a point. And so as you guys are walking out of here, I'm hoping that you take back, if you take nothing back, take back, I want to improve my culture with intention. Okay? So let's pause there for just a second, because what does that mean, Beau? What do you mean develop your culture with intention? Well, step one is clarity. Define the culture that you want. Step two, find the team that wants to be a part of that culture. Step three, do we have processes? Do they work? And step four, are we bringing the energy? Okay? And I'm gonna do a hot take real quick for you guys, because we're in such a interesting generational dynamic. All the old people say the young people don't want to work, and all the young people say the old people are stupid. Okay? Before you wrap yourself around the axle on trying to accommodate every possible scenario of a human being that could work in your organization, I would encourage you to not do that. I have seen 0 cases where that works. Define the culture that you want clearly. Use it on your interview. Use it on your annual reviews. Use it on your Indeed job posting. Use it when you're recruiting. Find people that want to be a part of that culture, and you will be a million times stronger than trying to accommodate every single human being and whatever thing they've got going on. Right? Make sense? Because it is tremendous the amount of pressure that organization leaders are feeling right now to accommodate every possible thing. And it is a losing proposition if you're trying to run a for-profit business. If you're not for profit, rock on, man. Have a cry room, ice cream social, free balloons, do it. If you're in business to make money, do not let yourselves fall into that trap. Okay, I'll step off my soapbox now. So playing the long game. Do not dabble with your culture, okay? I'll tell you guys a little secret, and mathematically it is proven out. In every organization, there's about 20% of the people who will absolutely get on board with whatever you throw at them. They're firewalkers. They're gonna do it. Let's go, let's charge, let's take the hill, let's win. There's about 20% on the other end that will never get on board. Doesn't matter. You offer them $1,000, they'll complain that it's not $2,000, okay? In the middle, there's about 60%. And these are the wait and see guys and gals. Is this really gonna stick? Are we really gonna do this? Are we really gonna go forward? Are we really gonna improve this time? Is this just another thing? And so when you dabble, those 20% of get it done people, they're gonna get really excited. Man, this is awesome. I've been waiting on this. I knew we were gonna finally get after it. We're gonna kick ass and take names. If you dabble, right, and they get 6 months of this test, and man, things feel better, and we're working on our culture, and our team's getting better, and we're getting better performance, this is awesome, and then you stop, they're gonna be pissed off. And your A players, right, the best swimmers are always the first ones to jump off the boat when they get pissed off, right? So if you're gonna do this, either do it or don't do it. There is no try here. I'm not gonna dip my toe in the water. I'm gonna get my team together. We're gonna talk about it and say, we really gonna do this, guys? And if so, then let's get after it. If not, leave it like it is, keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, guys, if you think about everybody in the organization thinking the same 4 questions, how powerful would it be? You need to promote somebody, right? What happens with our best operators? We promote them to be a supervisor, but we don't develop them to be a supervisor. We got a pretty decent supervisor, we promote them to be a manager. Don't develop them to be a manager. So if we've got 4 questions and they permeate our organization, it's a common language, we're all asking and answering the same 4 questions, how easy does it become to promote somebody? I just got to ask the same 4 questions in a different area, right? You're going to offer me, if I get promoted, the next guy's got to get promoted. He's got the same 4 questions in a different area, different scope. It's not, you got to learn a whole new language now that you're a supervisor, now that you're a leader, now that you're a manager, whatever titles you use, it's the same 4 questions. Think about when you're launching your next new project. You're trying to open a building, or you're bringing on a new supplier, or you're going into a new market. 4 questions. And there's a lot to these 4 questions, guys. I'm not saying this is easy. It's really damn hard. The difference between simple and hard is simple, I can understand it. It's hard to do. And don't confuse that this is easy, right? But if your whole organization understands and asks and answers those 4 questions, how much better is your organization going to be 6 months from now? A lot. I'll give you a hint. A lot. Okay? So as you're thinking about it, and if you like different words, do that. Right? Call it potato. I don't care. But the point is, give your people something very clear and simple to buy into that helps them understand where you're going, why it matters, how they fit into it, what's in it for them. Why should they give a shit? Right? And just a footnote there, if you're walking around talking about shareholder value, market share, market penetration, your people don't care. Okay? They care about getting their kids to soccer practice, job security, are we going to have a job next week? So you have to translate this into language that matters for them. All right, so when you get back home, I would ask if you would do me the kind favor, look in the mirror a little bit. Listen to what you hear from your team, right? It may not be exactly what I did when I was doing the questions that we hear constantly. We always have a new pet project. We never fix our problems. There's always a new flavor of the month, right? Those kinds of questions, you'll hear them if you're listening. And it may not sound exactly like that, but it'll be in a meeting where somebody's expressing a little frustration. Man, how are we gonna get this done, boss? You know, I've already got 9 things on my to-do list. I'm behind on 7 of them. And here's number 10, right? We have to be listening to that, guys. Much better to pick 3 and get them done and then move to the next 3 than say you're working on 10 and getting nothing done. I promise you it works better. Do you have these 4 in place? Okay, and again, there's some really, really easy tests. If you were starting with clarity, which, hint, you always should, go ask 10 people what we're trying to do. Why does it matter? See if you get the same answer 10 times, or you get 10 totally different answers, or 10 similar answers, right? And go from there. If your team can't clearly articulate what we're trying to do, that's probably a problem. Any football fans out there? Got to be a couple? All right. University of Georgia, Bulldogs, go Dogs. Okay? All right. A couple of them too. What do you think they're talking about right now? At practice, when they're watching game film, when they're doing their thing, what are they talking about? What do you think Kirby's talking about? The next game, right? He's talking about the next game. And how do you win the next game? You got to win each quarter. How do you win each quarter? You got to beat the guy in front of you on each play. And it's back to the basics. I guarantee you, if we were sitting in Kirby Smart's coaching sessions, we would understand what he's talking about, even though I'm a long way from a professional football player, even a college football player. But it's that driving the consistent message that creates championship organizations. Okay? So when you get back, just spend a little time in the mirror, reflect a little bit, and see where you are. So, if this has resonated with you, and I hope it has, but it's hard to tell with your really lame hand-raising skills out there. I don't know what's going on. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We talk about all things supply chain. We talk about manufacturing. We talk about leadership. We talk about all kinds of good stuff. Love to connect with you there and have a conversation. And a extra value add, if you scan that, we have a weekly newsletter. It's not a sales pitch. It is a leadership nugget from Doc, okay? And Doc is the world's most succinct writer I've ever seen. He could explain the entire New Testament in 2 sentences very well. I don't know how he does it. But it'll be a really short leadership nugget, and it'll be an operational story. So if you guys want to scan that, love to connect with you there. All right, I'm hesitant about this next part. Are there any questions? Thoughts? Yes, sir. Yes. Can we get them the slideshow? Yeah. Yes, we'll make it available. Am I familiar with Good to Great and what I think of it? It's a good book. I like it. I don't know that I've got a really strong opinion about it. I think what we've seen in organizations are the ones who are disciplined to stay with it and keep things at as basic a level as you can, right? They say if we're writing, we should write in the 8th grade education level. Stick with the basics, stick with the basics, stick with the basics. So it's a great book. What else? Nothing else? I hope this was enlightening. I hope you guys can take something out with you. I think I'm supposed to do one more thing here. Yes. So this is probably where you give me a score. I'm looking for 5 stars. I'm like an Uber driver. I'm not looking for a tip, but 5 stars would be greatly appreciated. And seriously, guys, if I can help, I'd love to have a conversation on LinkedIn just to chat through leadership. It is absolutely my passion. I've got a fantastic partner in Doc, and that's all we do. We talk about leadership and getting shit done. So if we can help, love to hear from you. All right. Go make IFE 2024 the best show ever, guys. Have fun. Thank you.